wolves. They lived in a castle.
Hi, I'm Papa Wolf.
Hi, I'm Mama Wolf.
Hi, I'm Baby Wolf.
One day, Mommy Wolf had made carrot soup for the family to eat. But the soup was too hot. So the family left and went on a stroll. While they were gone, who should come along but Tom and Jerry? Tom and Jerry were bunnies. They saw the carrot soup and decided to try the first bowl. It was too hot. The second one was too spicy. But the third one was just right, so they ate it all up. Then they went to the living room. Then they went to the living room and saw 3 baskets. When they tried the first one, it was too squishy. The second one was too hard. The third one was just right, so they sat in it, but it broke. Next, I went to the sunroom and saw 3 beds. The first one was too furry. The second one was too hard. The third one was just right, so they fell asleep. Suddenly, the family returned from the town. They saw the food and said, "Oh my gosh.
Someone's been eating my porridge.
Someone's been eating my porridge."
Someone's been eating my porridge and it's all gone.
Then they went to the living room and said, "Oh no.
Someone's been sitting in my basket.
Someone was sitting in my basket."
Somebody's been sitting in my basket and they broke it.
Next, they went to the bedroom. Look,
Someone's been sleeping in my bed.
someone's sleeping in my bed.
Somebody's been sleeping in my bed and they're still here.
The bunnies saw the wolves and ran as fast as they could until they got home. The end.
Thanks for watching our show.
This is the story of Gib and the 3 bears. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears. They lived in a cottage. One day, Papa Bear had made donuts for the family to eat, but they were too hot. So the family left and went to pick berries. While they were gone, Puss had come along, but a little pig, Gip, was a hungry pig. He saw the donuts and decided to try it. The first one was too hot.
Too hot.
The second one was too cold.
Too cold.
But the third one was just right, so he ate it. Then he went to the bedroom and saw 3 beds. When he tried the first one, it was too dirty.
Too dirty.
The second one was too hard. But the third one was just right, so he jumped on it but broke it.
Oh no.
Next, Gip went to the garage. He saw 3 boxes. The first one was too dusty.
Too dusty.
The second one was too wet.
Too wet.
But the third one was just right, so he looked in the box but fell in it. They saw the donuts and said,
Somebody's been eating my donuts. Someone's eating my donuts. Somebody's been eating my donuts and it's all good.
Next, they went to the bedroom and saw 3 beds and said,
Somebody's been sleeping in my bed. Someone's been sleeping in my bed. Somebody's been sleeping in my bed and they broke it.
next they went to the garage room and said,
Somebody's been looking in my box. Someone's been looking in my box. Somebody's been looking in my box and it's still there.
and Gib ran as fast as he could until he got home.
Thanks for watching my show.
Alrighty.
The 3 teenagers and the 2 bears. Once upon a time, there were 3 teenagers. They lived in a house. One day, the first sister had made bacon and eggs for the family to eat, but it was too hot. So the family left to watch a movie. While they were gone, who should come along but 2 teenage bears. The bears had brown fur and blue eyes. They saw the bacon and eggs and decided to try them. The first plate was too hot. The second one was too cold, but the third one was just right, so they ate it all up. Then they went to the living room. And they saw 3 sofas. When they tried the first one, it was too glitchy. The second one had a password, but the third one was just right. So they played on it, but it broke. They went into the bedroom. They saw 3 beds. The first one was too hard. The second one was too squishy. The third one was just right, so they jumped on it. Suddenly, the family returned from the movies. They saw the food and said, Someone's been eating my food. Someone's been eating my food. Someone's been eating my food. They ate it all up. They went to the living room and saw the phone and said, Someone's been on my phone. Someone's been on my phone. Someone's been on my phone. And they broke it. Next, they went to the bedroom and said, Someone's been in my bed. Someone's been in my bed. Someone's been in my bed. And look, they're still here. Run! The bears saw them and ran as fast as they could until they got home. Thanks for watching our show. Mr. Montez's class, and we're telling the story of the Jungle Book. There once was a father who went to the jungle's edge to cut wood. The mother joined him and cooked the dinner by the fire. Sitting by the fire was their son, a young boy, who was playing with sticks in the firelight. The boy took his eyes off the sticks and looked past the fire into the brush. He saw two eyes looking at him in the dark and heard a low growl. A tiger suddenly leapt from the bushes with a loud roar. The father screamed and ran away. The mother screamed and ran the other way. And the boy stared at the tiger as he leapt from the bushes and landed with his front two paws in the fire. The tiger screamed at the pain of burning his paws and ran into the jungle. The boy, now alone, walked until he came to a cave. The cave belonged to a mother and father wolf. The boy saw wolf cubs playing, fighting over a large bone. So he joined them as they played. Father wolf barked. "Ruff!
You're a man cub and you do not belong in the jungle."
And then he growled at the boy. Mother wolf jumped between Father wolf and the boy and said,
He's a man cub. Look how well he plays with the wolves. He's no bigger than a little frog.
He's a man
What
cub.
harm could he do?
He's a man cub. He does not belong in the jungle. We'll see what the council has to say about this.
He is as small as a little forest frog. I think I'll call him Mowgli.
The wolf pack meets at Council Rock. Akela, the great gray lone wolf, sits on Council Rock, and all of the wolf pack sits around him. This night, young Mowgli has been brought to Council Rock. Akela barks and says,
Look well, O wolves. What has they brought? What have they brought to us?
his father and mother have run off and left him alone.
Should he run with the free people or go back to the Van Village?
The wolves howl and speak the language of the free people.
He's mine! Now give him to me! What does he have to do with you? If I may speak, I will tell you. He will speak. He is mine to hunt. Now give him to me. I burn my own paws hunting him.
He is not yours to hunt. He is just a man cub. He is a man cub, and he runs with the free people, and he hunts with the free people, and later, soon he will hunt you, lame tiger.
What shall we do? Would we let him go with the free people, or with the lame tiger? But he's mine. Now give him to me.
Growled Shere Khan as he left Council Rock.
In my teeth, he will come and yield. Look well, O wolves. Mowgli is with the free people. Now we shall hunt.
All of the people of the jungle speak different language. It is Baloo, the great old brown bear, who teaches the young cubs of the law of the jungle. First, I will teach you the language of the wolf people. Oh! Oh! Next, I will teach you the language of the snake people. Now I will teach you the language of the flying people. Kiriki, kirika, kirika.
At that moment, the monkey people high in the tree threw rocks and grass at Baloo. Mowgli laughed. And said,
Who are these people?
They are the monkey people. We do not talk to the monkey people and don't look at the monkey people.
they threw rocks and grass and sticks at animals walking on the jungle floor. They fight with one another.
Why did you tell them about the monkey people? Because I'm the teacher and I do not like the monkey people.
While Baloo and Bagheera argued, the monkey people came down from the trees and grabbed Mowgli and took him up in the treetops. When Bagheera and Baloo realized that Mowgli was gone, they howled and ran when Bagheera and Baloo went through the jungle, trying to find him. Baloo and Bagheera cried, "Mowgli!
Mowgli! Mowgli, where are you? Mowgli?
The monkey people took Mowgli to the monkey city. The monkey said to Mowgli,
Teach us how to be a man cub. How do you make the red flower?
Blue is right. These monkeys are so. Get your paws off me.
Then the monkey people lured Mowgli by his arm into a pit of cobras.
We are the same blood, you and I.
You know the language of the snake people. If you do not step on us, we will not bite you.
And so Mowgli fought their way through hundreds of monkeys until finally they reached the snake cliff. They fought their way through 100 monkeys until they reached the snake pit.
Is that you, little brother?
And Baloo lifted the man cub out of the pit and carried him home on his back. After that day, Mowgli never spoke to the monkey people again.
The wolves waited at Council Rock. Shere Khan came hunting for Mowgli.
Listen, you pack of dogs. Everyone in the jungle calls you dogs because you follow that man cub.
We are not dogs.
The wolves howled.
Give me the man cub.
Akela, the leader of the wolves, barked.
Look well, O wolves, look well. Mowgli has returned from the man village.
Mowgli stood face to face with the tiger. Shere Khan growled and charged the boy, but as he did, Mowgli raised up a branch with a red flower on it. The tiger screamed in terror and turned and ran into the jungle. He never returned on Council Rock again. From that day on, Mowgli lived and hunted and ran with the wolf pack. He had many adventures and one day met Shere Khan as he came hunting. But that is a story for another time.
This is Miss Jeffrey's class, and we are practicing.
Telling the story.
We're telling the story of King Minos and his mentor. King Minos of Crete was a powerful man, feared by the rulers of every land. When Minos demanded tributes to honor him, the rulers sent goods and men to stop him from going to war. King Minos had built a giant maze, a labyrinth, and at the center of the maze, he kept a terrifying creature that was half man and half bull, the Minotaur. It was powerful and looked like the flashlight of humans who had been shut in the labyrinth by King Minos. Prisoners would wander through the maze, completely lost, until at last they came to face with the Minotaur. The labyrinth was created by the ingenious mind of Daedalus.
Daedalus was a brilliant architect and inventor. In fact, he was so brilliant that King Minos did not want to let him go back to his home and kept Daedalus with his son Icarus in a tower. As Daedalus looked out over the waves of the Mediterranean Sea, he realized the best plan to escape. He told King Minos that he needed feathers and wax for a new invention that he was working on.
I need feathers
When
and
these
wax.
items were brought to him, he took them up onto the roof of the tower. Here he arranged the feathers into 2 pairs of wings and stuck the feathers together with wax. He fastened the larger pair to his arms and began to flap them until his feet took off from the roof and he began to hover in midair. Icarus laughed with delight and
Oh my
could
god!
not wait to try out the smaller pair of wings. Over the next few days, father and son both practiced with them until little Icarus was almost as good at flying as his father was. Then one morning, Daedalus said to Icarus, "Now,
Do not. We are leaving because you are almost as good as me. Do not go too low, or the moisture will catch your wings and make you plunge down into the water. Do not nor fly too high, or the sun will melt your wax and you plunge into the water." Now we are ready.
little Icarus nodded to show his father that he had understood. Then Daedalus led his son up onto the top of the tower, and like a bird, he jumped into midair and flapped his wings. Icarus followed soon after. Over the seas they sailed, and Icarus soon found that he was really good at flying. In fact, it was the most tremendous fun he could ever have. He began to swoop up and down with the seagulls. His father turned around and called,
Icarus, take care!
and for a while after that, Icarus' wings caught a warm air current, and he found that he could soar high above the waves and the ship. Down below were like tiny little specks. His father caught up to him.
Icarus, come down!
Icarus could not hear him and was far too close to the sun, and soon the wax that held the feathers together began to melt. The feathers even began to fall
Oh no!
off. Icarus flapped his arms frantically, but it was too late, and down he plunged into the sea.
There was a kingdom called Athens. King Minos demanded that every year the king of Athens sent him 7 young men, and 7 young women. Every year a ship with black sails would arrive and take the young Athenians away, and they never returned. The king of Athens' name was King Aegeus. His son Theseus asked him one day,
Father, why do we send these 7 young men and 7 young women, and how come they never return?
Because if we don't send them, King Minos will wage a war that we could not win, and they do not return because they are food for the Minotaur.
Theseus shouted,
We should not feed any more of our young citizens to this tyrant. I vow that I will go to the labyrinth, and I do not fear what is in it.
King Aegeus cried.
I'll keep watch for you every day, and if you are successful, put down the black sails and put up the white sails so I know that you return.
As the ship docked in Crete, King Minos himself came down and jeered at the prisoners.
Look at these puny creatures, hardly even a snack for my mighty minotaur in the labyrinth. So, who wants to go first?
I will volunteer to go in the maze first, and I do not fear what is in your maze.
Standing behind the king, listening, was his daughter, Ariadne. From the moment she set eyes on Theseus, Ariadne fell in love with him. As she listened, she decided that she would help him. As Theseus entered the labyrinth, Ariadne called softly to him.
Take this. Even though you might defeat the Minotaur, doesn't mean you'll escape.
She threw him a great ball of string, and he tied one end of it to the entrance and began to make his way into the maze, letting out the string behind him as he went. Theseus walked carefully through the dark, full, smelly passages of the labyrinth. Turning a corner with his hand held out in front of him, he suddenly bumped into the creature. In an instant, Theseus was picked up between the Minotaur's horns and tossed high into the air. When he landed on the hard, cold stone, he felt the animal's huge hooves come down on his chest. He struggled to stay alive. As the Minotaur bellowed on his ear and grabbed at him with his hairy arms, Theseus found his strength and grabbed the animal's huge horns, twisting with the great head from side to side. As the animal grew weak, Theseus gave one almighty tug on the head, turning it almost right around. The creature's neck snapped. It gurgled its last breath and fell to the floor an enormous thud. The Minotaur was dead. In the struggle, Theseus had let go of the string. Theseus fell all over the floor in the pitch darkness and kept thinking he had found it, only to realize that all he had found was a long, weary hair from the Minotaur. Despair set in, and Theseus wondered if this was where his life would end. Down in the dark, all alone, next to his stinking body. Then his hands brushed a piece of string, and with a whoop of delight, he knew he had found the thread which would lead him back out. As he neared the entrance of the labyrinth, the darkness began to fade, and he made out the figure of Ariadne, waiting for his return.
Please take me with you. My father would kill me if he knew that I helped you.
Quickly and quietly, they unfurled the great black sails on their ship and headed home.
I'm so happy that I got to escape from my terrible father, and I am about to marry a faithful prince.
Yeah, that's great.
But in truth, Theseus did not want to marry Ariadne. So when their ship docked at an island on their way home to collect fresh water, Theseus sent Ariadne off to find bread and fruit. The moment she was gone, he set sail and left her on the island. For in his haste to get away, Theseus forgot to change his sails to white. King Aegeus, waiting on the headland, saw the ship approaching with its black sails flying in the wind.
My son has not returned. He has died.
He cried, and in despair he flung himself from the cliff into the raging waters below. From that day on, the sea was named the Aegean Sea.
Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot.
Hooray!
But the Grinch who lived just north of Whoville
Did not.
The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason.
I don't know.
But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart
Bum, bum, bum,
was 2 sizes
bum, bum,
too small.
bum, bum.
Whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's.
How could you stay mad at me?
I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming, for tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. Oh, they'd rush for their toys, and then, oh, the noise, the noise, the noise, noise, noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise, noise, noise. Hey, I'm telling a story here.
Sorry.
Then the Who's
Young and old.
would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, feast, feast.
Excuse me.
You're excused. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beef, which is something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. Then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, then the Who's would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing and they'd sing, sing, sing. Then the Grinch got an idea, an awful idea.
The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea.
I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he put on his quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. Then he chuckled and chuckled. What a great Grinchy trick! With his coat and his hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is the reindeer. The Grinch looked around, but since reindeer were scarce, there were none to be found. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags on an old empty sacks on a ramble-shack sleigh and he hitched up on Max. Then the Grinch said,
Giddy up!
and the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. This is stop number 1, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa can do it,
So can the Grinch.
there were little Who stockings, all hung in a row. These stockings, he said, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Popcorns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorns, and plums. And he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch very nimbly stuffed all the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the roast pudding. He took the roast beef.
Not the roses!
Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I'll stuff up the tree.
No!
And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove. When he heard a small sound, like the sound of a dove. He turned around fast and saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou who was no more than
2.
The Grinch had been caught by the tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cold cup of water. She stared at the Grinch, and all the girls said,
Why, Santa Claus, why?
but you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot.
Santa Claus died.
And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small. Then the Who down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch
Like you're
put his
surprised,
hand
like,
to
wait
his
a minute.
ear. And he did
That's
hear a
not
sound rising over the snow.
Hand
It
up to your
started
ear, and they're
Then
going to
it
start
started to
lying,
grow.
swaying. Keep your hand up
But
there.
the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound very
You look
merry.
surprised.
It couldn't be so, but it was
Big,
merry,
happy
very.
smile.
And he stared down at
Do it all
Whoville.
to
The
him,
Grinch
not to him.
popped
All
his
right,
eyes.
I'll tell you what to do
Then he
next,
shook.
okay?
What he
Don't
saw was
fall.
a shocking surprise.
Remember I told you,
Every
fear.
Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags.